it endgame Justin Trudeau? There had been a lot of criticism on a lot of issues, and not from India this time, remember, but within domestic politics itself, that there was rising criticism. And now, according to information coming in, basically how the news reports that are surfacing, that amid a deteriorating Canadian economy, mounting pressure, that Trudeau is likely to quit as the Liberal Party leader, and that could happen in the next few hours. Remember, this comes days after the finance minister resigned after a spat with him over Trump tariff. Trudeau already had been in troubled times. 20 of his MPs in the government have vowed to actually change the government, topple it, and are extremely angry with him over the handling of the economy. Trudeau, remember, has had a tumultuous equation with India ever since he's accused the Indian government of killing a Khalistani separatist. But apart from that, recent statements by Donald Trump as well, US President-elect, shows what his plans could be for Canada. Joining me now is my colleague Shashank Mattu, who closely tracks the foreign affairs, and also a special guest joining me, Daniel Bodben. And I must say, Daniel, this time you are in the Indian time zone, and therefore, good morning, Daniel, and welcome to India. But let me help understand what is your view on this, because it's still a developing story, and we do not know when it may happen. But why do you think it's happening, that Justin Trudeau couldn't really hold back eventually?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me, and thanks for welcoming me to India. It's nice to be in the same time zone, so this is far less confusing on my end. In terms of, okay, Justin Trudeau, how do we get here? He's in the middle of so many crazy scandals that would have broken any other government in any other point of Canadian history. So the fact that he lost the finance minister and deputy prime minister, where he was firing her from finance minister and wanted to make her like minister of sitting in the corner and doing nothing. And then she pulled the "you can't fire me, I quit" routine, and then sort of broke the Liberal Party into sort of two factions. And loosely it's said, okay, so Trudeau's faction, and the head of Trudeau's faction is Katie Telford, who is his chief of staff, and she runs a sort of unelected, you would describe as loosely, you could say like deep state or Canada deep province, where it's sort of the unelected power holders who sort of brought Trudeau up in the sort of like the prime minister's office, and those people holding power. And then you have the other faction, which are represented by Chrystia Freeland, and that's like the elected faction of the Liberals. So these are the sort of discontented MPs, and they don't like Trudeau right now, not because he's ruined Canada or any of the stuff. It's because he's sort of sidelined and taken power from them, and he's made their re-election nearly impossible and ruined the brand of the Liberal Party. So they're not happy because, you know, their future and the future of the Liberal Party and their political careers are in jeopardy. So with these two factions like openly at odds with each other, and the fact that we have a minority government to begin with, so he doesn't have a majority even with just his own party. So he's dealing with a complete schism in his own party from a minority position where he's just propped up by the NDP. It's a completely untenable situation. However, I'm not 100% convinced that Justin Trudeau is going to resign, which would be for us in India here later tonight, when it hits Monday. Now, if he does resign, you know, I'll be very happy. There's this weird scenario where he could resign as leader of the Liberal Party, but not as prime minister, which again is an absolute absurdity. And it's like technically he can do this, but no one ever would. But again, that's the Justin Trudeau way: is no one should ever really do this. You can't do this, but then he does it, and the media covers for him. So it's a very, very weird situation in Canada where, and as Trudeau critics, you have to, when there's been rumors of Trudeau resigning or stepping down before, and I've always taken I'll believe it when I see it approach to this.
Very interesting. It could, I mean, it would definitely be embarrassing as and when this happens, if not today, possibly tomorrow. I bring in now my colleague Shashank on this. Shashank, good morning. What are you hearing? What are the news reports surfacing? Any timeline? And what precisely has led him to take this step?
Well, I think as Daniel has pointed out, I think it's a lot of pressure from, first of all, members of the Liberal Party of Canada. You look at the poll numbers and they're quite startling. 73% of Canadians at this point in time think that Trudeau should resign as leader of the Liberal Party. Numerous surveys are coming out saying that really barely single double digits of the population support him, wanted to stay on as prime minister. Around 13% of the population will support the Liberal Party if Trudeau stays on as prime minister. But if the leader changes, Canadians are willing to change their mind a little bit as well when it comes to the Liberal Party. Perhaps not enough to win them the election, but enough to do a better job at the polls. So that is certainly the political pressure that's coming from his party, as well as the recognition that it is Trudeau himself who has become personally extremely unpopular because of policies that have been associated with him. He has a carbon tax that he's introduced that has made him extremely unpopular. The economy has suffered. Immigration, Canada opened its doors very visibly as a policy that was associated with
Correct.
his political legacy. And that has become increasingly unpopular. He's had to backtrack on that. So he's become personally unpopular. The polls are showing it. He's lost support. And as Daniel was mentioning, he's lost the support of really one of his key political allies, his key political lieutenants, Chrystia Freeland, Deputy Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. He was seen to be hanging her out to dry because the fiscal deficit situation in Canada has been getting worse. So really, it's policy mismanagement. There's a sense that he's not to be trusted anymore by
Okay.
the general public in Canada. So the narrative as well as public support has gone against him.
And
That's why
something that he's not been able to resolve. Stay on with me, Shashank. I go to Daniel on this. Daniel, then what happens? As in when the resignation does come in, let's assume it is happening in the days to come. Is it going to be early elections right away? Is it going to be advantage Pierre Poilievre if it happens right now? And where does this Jagmeet Singh figure really come in at this point?
Yeah, so, I mean, what should happen is if he resigns as leader or as prime minister, like, there should be again, there's this weird thing where I guess he could resign as leader of the Liberal Party, stay on as prime minister, propped up by Jagmeet Singh, for another month to get towards his pension, to give the Liberals enough time to hold a leadership election, to throw someone new in there for the election. You know, it's such an absurd thing. Like, literally, honestly, if he does resign as in either thing, it should break the government and trigger an election and do all that. Like, again, we're in such uncharted territory. He's so deeply unpopular. There's so many scandals. He should resign, but he's not. So, the Jagmeet factor is, Jagmeet, and it's so clear the Conservative Party is going to win a supermajority. The current projections is the separatist Bloc Québécois, which only runs federal politics in one province, Quebec. They're projected to be the second party in Canada. So that's just how deeply unpopular the Liberals and the NDP are.
Okay.
The NDP, they're really flirting with disaster because the Liberals are projected to be in fourth place. And the NDP is a joke of a party, but they risk, if they continue to prop up this Trudeau government in the way that they are doing, they risk becoming such a toxic brand and associated with all the toxicity over the last 10 years that for the long-term health of the party, they might want to decouple themselves from the Liberals. But again, we're in such uncharted territory. We've never had two leaders like Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau before running the country. So I will believe it when I see it. And if he does end up resigning, you're all invited to the party I will be throwing all throughout India. So just come onto the streets of Mumbai. I'll be there, and there'll be much rejoicing.
All right, so it remains to be seen who is going to be partying as and when that happens, and what does it really mean for Canada.